have any Java experience?
Yeah, I mean we have been doing OF work actually, you know, so we are not new to OF, and we recently, we have done projects. We went live in our month. Uh,
Okay. So guys, can you brief me about what are you aware of SOA?
so on a high level, we know that it's basically used as a middleware, and I have worked with other middlewares in the past actually. So and the principles. SOA uses a SOAP protocol, and so on a high level, we know little about SOA. It's a middleware, and it is used to
Okay, very good.
have components, which can
Mm,
which we integrate and you know, interface and
Faisal
okay.
Moti here. I have a question. Uh,
Yeah.
so is it Java basics are mandatory for SOA, or can you just start with prerequisites
Mm,
to start SOA?
yeah. Yep. So regarding Java, you don't need to be expert in Java, but we need to understand the concepts like what is a class, what is an interface, okay, some
Okay.
basic loops. At least so these are required in any programming language.
Yep. That's
SOA is
correct.
a kind of your integration technology, right? So most of the time, your integration portion goes into the SOA, but actual business implementation goes to your web services that might have been implemented either in Java or any programming language. So
Okay.
what happens in a small scale organization, even you got a role of SOA developer,
Mm-hmm.
so sometimes you need to go and look into the actual business functionality, how it has been implemented. But in a big scale organization where you got so a developer role, you would be concentrated only on this integration portion.
Okay.
Okay. But in terms of learning SOA, you don't need to be expert in Java, but you need to understand these concepts.
Okay. So I have concepts, but I don't have any work experience or in
Yeah,
Java.
that's fine. The best part of SOA is it's a kind of drag and drop. So you need to understand even the components of SOA conceptually.
Okay.
You don't need to write a lot of code here. So anyways,
Okay.
let's move on.
Okay.
So guys, can you able to see my screen?
yes.
Yes.
Okay, 1 second. I think somehow my machine was stuck. Oh, so it's very slow. Okay, so we have a definition here. So it talks about it's an IT strategy that organizes the discrete functions contained in enterprise applications into interoperable standards-based services to be combined and reused quickly to meet the business requirements. So what does it mean? So if you're trying to build any enterprise level of application, so maybe I'm trying to implement an SCM application which is having a lot of modules and a lot of products like you have a auto capturing, auto management, you have a logistics, planning, billing, procurements. So you would be having a lot of products and each and every product would be having a lot of modules internally. So when you're trying to build this kind of supply chain management application, so divide your functionality into discrete functions. It means the smallest features you can divide your complete SCM functionality, and let's take I divided into 1000 features, and all these 1000 features I'll be implementing using my own technology or the utilities that I'm comfortable with. Okay, but I'll publish those features in terms of a service. Now, when you publish in terms of a service, these should be interoperable. It means they need to exchange the information in between them. Okay, and they should follow some standard so that any consumer can make use of the standard and can easily integrate with your service. Now let's try to integrate all these services together based on your business requirements to complete my supply chain management application. So that is what SOA suggests at a high level. Okay, so here when we publish in terms of a service, we talked about there is a standard. Now let's try to understand what is this standard. So guys, do you heard about Vestal,
Yes.
Kiran? Okay, so let me just brief at a very high level. So here, when we publish any service, we give a standard called Vestal, which stands for Web Services Description Language. Okay, so this slide is trying to make us understand. He has a functionality which was implemented in Java, and he's trying to publish in terms of a web service. Now, what are the details that gets associated in your Vestal document? That's what he's trying to make us understand. So all your operation details, for example, create purchase order is an operation, gets placed inside your port types. And this operation would be having some input and some output. And in Vestal, we call it as a messages, input message and the output message, and we place here. In Java, we create something called Purjo classes to capture the data. Plain old Java objects. We even call it as a DTOs, data objects, some beans. Okay, the terminology could be different, depends on where we are using that object. But here in terms of services, we call it as a Purjo classes. And similarly, to represent the data in terms of XML, you create something called XST and we place inside the type section. And we even need to mention what is a protocol a consumer can make use to talk to your web services. Those will place under the bindings, which could be having your HTTP or SOAP protocols. And the services talks about where the service was actually hosted, maybe in a production system or a development system or a testing system. So this a Vestal will contain all the details required for the consumer to make an integration. Okay. I think some machine is slow. So here we have an example as well to the previous slide, whatever we have discussed. The port type is containing your operation. An operation could be having your input and output. And these referring to a messages called request message and the response message. And these messages are defined once again in the messages section, where the request message is pointing to an element called purchase order. So this is an element which is available in your XST, and that is referred in your type section. And the binding section talks about what is a binding a client can make use. Here he is using a binding called SOAP binding. Okay. And the services talks about where the service was actually hosted. And is your endpoint of your service. Okay. And in the definition, we talked about whenever we are implementing all these 1000 features, we can make use of our own technology or the utility that we are comfortable with. But what SOA suggests, rather than using your own technology or utility, you can make use of various components provided by Oracle Server Suite. And he introduced a terminology called SCA, Service Component Architecture. Now, what is this component? Let's try to understand. So let's say I'm trying to implement a feature called order management. And there are various components available like BPL, mediator, business rules, human tasks. Each and every component was introduced to implement some kind of functionality. I'll just introduce little later. So you can make use of any of this component to implement your order management. No, I do not. I don't bother how my business functionality I'm trying to implement. I'll just talk about there is some component which is implementing my business functionality. But as part of the implementation, whenever I receive an order, I need to talk to various fulfillment systems like planning, inventory, and a couple of others. And I can able to talk to them using the external references for the component provided. And somebody needs to consume my component to place a request. For example, auto capturing is the guy who can place a request. And he is allowed to place a request on my component using the expose service. So this is what we call it as a service component architecture. Okay. Now let's try to understand what is a composite application. So from here onwards, we give a terminology called composite application for the SOA applications that we create. Now we already talked about what is a component. So in our SCM, we are having a lot of modules, lot of features. So we'll pick each and every component to implement some kind of functionality. So let's take the two components which are implementing two different functionalities, and I'm allowed to integrate these two components together to complete the complete functionality. Okay, and all your components would be wrapped up into your composite.xml, which is an assembly in your composite application. And the best part of this application is, once again, it gets wrapped up into a service so that anybody can able to consume your application in terms of a service. And even this guy having something called references to talk to external system. Okay, and here comes your architecture. Now let's try to understand this at a very high level. So JDeveloper is the IDE which we use to create the composite applications. And OWSM stands for Oracle Web Services Manager, which is used to provide the security on the applications that we create. And EM stands for Enterprise Manager. If you guys worked on WebLogic server, probably you might have navigated to the EM. But EM is an application which is used to access and configure or administrate the composite applications that we host on a server. And this SOAP, JMS, FTP, these are all the clients. Using them, we can place a request to the composite application. And these are all the components available which are used to implement your application. So let me pick it up this BPEL, which stands for Business Process Execution Language. So this was implemented to this was introduced to provide the orchestration functionality. So I gave you some examples in my earlier slides, like I have an order management application. So when I'm processing my order, I need to talk to various fulfillment systems like planning, inventory, logistics, a shipping system, and then the billing system. I need to talk to these systems one after another because the one system's response, I need to pass it as an input to another systems. A shipping system needs the supply dates which was given by your planning system. Okay, I need to orchestrate all these fulfillment systems one after another as a process. So that's what we call it as a BPEL. Using this BPEL, we can implement such kind of orchestration logics. Now let me pick it up this mediator, which is used to do some routing implementations. For example, in the same order management application, so I have a shipping system integrated. So I have my own shipping system, for example S1, and some third-party shipping systems S2, S3. And it generally receives orders from various customers like C1, C2, C3. So as per the definition, mediator is used to route your request to the targets. So whenever I receive an order from C1, I want this order to be fulfilled only from shipping system S1. But this mediator is not meant for taking the response of S1 and pass it on S2. That becomes orchestration. So this guy can able to only take the response of S1 and pass to the consumer C1 directly. That is what we call as a routing. So here to route, we should understand we receive an order from C1. So we need to have something called filter criteria. And this guy might pass the request in terms of a sales order. But when you're communicating a shipping, we need to pass in terms of a shipment request. So I need to do something called transform. And let's take I got an order whose quantity is 0 by due to some reason. And if we send that request to the shipment, that shipping system will definitely fail because there is nothing to fulfill. So we can even write something called validations here. We call it as a schematic validation to do our customer level validations, whatever we want, before we send a request to the fulfillment systems. So using the mediator, we are allowed to perform all these things. You can even publish and subscribe events. We'll talk about them as we move further. Okay, let me pick it up this business rules. In our day-to-day life, we purchase a lot of things online, right? Maybe we use multiple portals like Amazon, Best Buy, Flipkart. And if you notice, these guys provides a lot of discounts, sale out discount, year-end sales, okay, festive reasons, and on various items they provide various discounts. And these discounts are available only for a specific time frame, okay? And they will not brought down their application when they're providing these discounts or when they're applying these business decisions. There is no interruption to the application. So if you wanted to implement similar functionalities using Oracle Server Suite, we can make use of a business rules component. Let's take I got an order of maybe $100,000. I cannot directly fulfill that. Maybe I need an approval from my order manager. And once he either approves or rejects, I can take it further. So in those cases, we can make use of a human task component. Now let me pick it up BAM, which stands for Business Activity Monitoring. So let's take sometimes your order manager wants to be notified with automatically generated report, which talks about how many orders they received for their application, maybe from a specific customer or on a specific item, maybe hourly basis, daily, weekly. He wanted to be notified with a report so that he can plan for the future. So that's what we call as a business activity monitoring. And there is one more thing called B2B, business to business. So it was introduced to do the communication between various trading partners like your supplier, manufacturer, retailers, wholesalers. So where these people talks in terms of the documents, maybe with the electronic data interchange. Okay, so in those cases, to fulfill those requirements, we use B2B. And sometimes whenever a shipping system ship the goods, they can send a message or send an event using complex events processing on a network called EDN, Electronic Event Delivery Network. Okay, and who are all interested to capture this message, they can subscribe to this network. Okay, that's what we call it as events. And where SOA infra, like EM, it's an application. SOA infra is used to load your application and try to route your execution to the relevant engines like BPEL, Mediator. So every component gets executed by their own engines. So the life cycle of your composite application execution takes care by your SOA infra. And we have something called auditing here. So in Java or any other programming language, whenever we get any request, just to know what the data that we have received, so we'll write something called log statements, begin of this method, end of this method, and this is the data that we received for this method. And if something got failed due to any level, so we review those log files and we debug what was the actual issue. But in terms of server, we don't need to worry about all those things. So let's say I got 100,000 orders or 10,000 orders. For each and every order, there is an instance ID created in the DB. Okay, and we are allowed to review what was happened to some order, maybe 50th order. And we can see how it has been executed. Maybe there could be 20 composite applications as part of your product. It will show you how the request has been processed through all these 20 composite applications, including logs. So that comes out of the box as part of your server. We don't need to write any code for that. And let me talk about MDS, so which is stands for metadata services. So when we host any web application, it gets hosted on my server's memory. If my server was crashed due to any reason, so I lost my server, I lost my application. I need to recreate one more server and rehost my application, and if there are any post configurations after the deployment, I need to make sure them once again. But in terms of SOA, when I host this composite application, that gets hosted inside my DB rather than on my server's memory. So even my server was crashed, I still have my application in the DB. My only responsibility is create one more server or point any other existing server to the DB so that I got my application and I don't need to worry about the post deployments. Okay, that's the advantage of MDS, and MDS is used for a couple of other purposes as well. So we'll talk about them in the regular sessions. So this is at the high level of your source with 11G architecture. So maybe in the regular sessions, we'll do the demos on all of these components and their activities. Okay. So here are some course objectives. After completing this course, you should be able to understand what is SOA style application and what is an SCA style applications. And you'll be creating some demos using various components like BPEL, mediator, business rules, human task, BAM, and then some ADNs, sensors, signals, springs, some test weights, some adapters, and you'll be using EM extensively, and you will be providing the security for the applications that you create. Okay, and we'll be giving even a overview of OSB also, just to give you a high level feel how OSB application looks like. And maybe we'll do a simple demo to communicate or to have an integration from OSB to SOA application and SOA to OSB application. Okay, and this is for 30-hour session, so we'll take 1 hour each day. So we'll be completing in 30 days. So this is about what we are planning as part of this training session. Okay, so you have any questions?
Yeah, one question here actually. I mean, are you going to cover, you know, are you going to bring in EBS into this picture? Like, will there be demos including eBusiness Suite?
I do not have any EBIS application handy with me. So generally, we'll be talking to EBIS application using one of the adapter provided.
Okay.
There is an adapter called Oracle Applications Adapter. So we'll talk about a couple of other adapters, and when I introduce the adapters concept, right, most of the time whatever the adapter that you're using, it would be pretty much similar other than the configuration details that you enter. So it's like there is some application, you need to understand how to reach that application and what are the details that you need to enter.
Okay. So
Okay,
if you
so
go back one slide, you have something like file adapter database. Okay. So what is AQ adapter like?
uh, I'll talk about in detail maybe in the regular session.
Okay. Okay. So
Any
will
other
this
questions?
time suit you like 6 a.m. to 7 a.m.? Is it a good time to have for you?
Yeah, we'll block the same slot.
Okay. And then when do you want to start? Like, how soon can you start? Uh,
Maybe you guys discuss with Sriram. So once you're
okay.
comfortable, right? So as soon you're comfortable, probably we can schedule the slot and we can get started.
Okay. Yeah. Any questions from anybody?
So are you going to provide any instance for hands-on as well?
We do not provide any instance, but you guys need to have your hardware, maybe your laptop or desktops with 8 GB RAM. So we make sure we set up the environments in your laptops, maybe in the second or third session.
Okay, so you are going to give the files, provide the files, and we need to set up our.
I'll give you the instructions. You need to download a couple of dumps, and I'll be doing the installation on your machine.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, guys. And Sriram, are you there?
One quick question. Hello.
Yep. Yeah, Vamshi.
One quick question. Yeah, I can understand that, we are not going deep into OSP or mediator. You're just briefing, you are just showing one functionality, how do we implement or how do we use OSP. Also, will you be able to brief BAM, OWSM?
These are covered, Vamshi. BAM, OWSM are covered. So you have a BAM adapter. We'll go in detail about the BAM B2B, and OWSM will talk about in terms of security, how to provide the security for the application that you create.
Okay, and ODA?
ODI, it's a separate sessions. We do not cover ODI here.
Okay, so ODA is excluded, and okay, is there anything else we are missing from SOA composite?
Whatever you can say this architecture, right? So as part of this training, we'll be going in detail about these components, whatever you can say here.
Okay, it never talks about ODA, right? But that's part of
Yeah, yeah,
SOA,
yeah.
right?
No, that's not a part of SOA. See, Fusion middleware is the big pillar. Inside your Fusion middleware, you have a lot of products. You have OSB is a separate product.
Yes.
SOA is a separate product. BAM, everything comes under SOA. And BPM is a separate product. Web Center is a separate product. Okay, so you have a various individual sessions for all these products. And ODI, as you mentioned, ODI, OEM,
Okay.
Oracle Identity Management, these are all individual products.
Hi.
Okay.
Hi. Do you have any course on 12C or is it just 11G only?
As of now, we are going only 11G, so we haven't started 12C sessions.
Now, how many years of experience you have exposure to SOA?
I'm having 8+ years of experience.
Okay. Did you start your career as EBS developer or did you move from Java to SOA?
Mm, Earlier, I worked on IBM SOA and then I moved on Oracle SOA.
Okay, okay. So what's the difference you find between IBM SOA and Oracle SOA?
So your Oracle SOA is quite better than your IBM SOA. That's what I can say. Depends on the architecture of how IBM SOA was created. So Oracle SOA is far better.
So you see a better future for Oracle SOA compared with IBM SOA.
Yeah. So in quite few years back, if you look at in terms of SOA, IBM is only the competitor. I mean, IBM SOA is good in the market, but Oracle SOA was beaten. I mean, now Oracle SOA is the better SOA technology in the market.
Okay.
Well, Fazal, can you talk about a little bit more about the projects that you have done with the SOA, that you have Oracle SOA, so that the experience and
Guys,
discussion
can we
with that?
take all these things maybe in the regular sessions? I just need to move on. So regarding this,
No, no,
whatever
I'm
you're
talking about,
planning the training, right? If you have any questions, please do ask me.
no, Fazal, I'm asking you about your experience with the Oracle SOA as such. Like what kind of projects have you done or what kind of work, effort that you have done so that we understand the depth of your understanding of Oracle SOA?
Hmm. So, I mean, I told you, right? I worked on Oracle SOA. So the project that I worked on is a kind of auto management product. Okay, in Oracle SOA.
Okay,
Any other
please
things
go
that you
on.
are expecting? Kiran?
Yeah, I'm fine actually. So I guess we have to move on to regular sessions uh,
Mm-hmm.
to ask more details.
Yep. Okay. So guys, you guys can discuss with Sriram for further details, and then probably we can schedule a slot for you people.
Okay, and you said 30 days, right? I mean, is it going to be like 1 hour daily or
It's 30
uh,
hours. If we take 1 hour daily rate, we will be completing in 30 days. Generally, we take only 1 hour each day.
okay. And you will be including the weekends or
We do not include weekends, only weekdays.
okay.
Unless you guys wants to complete early, probably we can spend some weekend.
Okay. And will there be
Okay.
like exercises, take home of the session?
Okay. So how I'll plan? Generally, you'd be having the recorded sessions. So I'll give you
Okay.
the organizer privilege for you, so that you can record from your side. And currently, this session is getting recorded. Right? The same how you can record by yourself. And whatever the demos that I'll be doing, you can practice those demos. And once we are completing some 5 sessions or 6 sessions, so I'll be giving some case studies for you people so that you can implement them in addition to the demos whatever we perform.
We'll have some material to fall back on or some sessions to fall back on, right? If you're stuck with something.
I'll just give you the case studies to
Okay.
implement separately in addition to the demos. But
Okay.
whatever you stuck, wherever you stuck, you can come back to me. So
Mhm.
we'll discuss those.
Okay.
Are we going to get any soft copies of study material further?
No, whatever we can get, right? So out of this training, only the recorded sessions and the demos that we perform, we will be delivering those code, the projects.
Okay, so I mean, you don't have any study material, or for future
No, no,
reference, do you have any?
we are not providing any study materials. And the best study material I can find is Oracle student guide. So
Yep,
developer guide will be having, right? That would be having a lot of details.
yep, that will be there. But if you have your own material for future,
Yeah,
because we are going.
from our side, we are not providing any material. Only the
Okay,
recorded videos you can get from us.
okay.
Okay, if everything goes fine, when do you think start this batch?
Yeah, so all those details you guys can discuss with Sriram.
Okay, let's Sriram says we'll start tomorrow. Are you fine with that?
Mm, Tomorrow it's a weekend, right? Probably I'll start with Monday.
Okay, okay, that's what I was expecting. Okay, fine. And one more thing before we get started, do you want
Yeah,
us
Vamsi.
something to, get familiar with? Is there something you suggest us, like XML or something?
You guys can go through the basics of what is an XML, XST, WSDL, these concepts. Anyways, I'll go through this, but you guys as well go through these things.
Okay, okay. Is there anything else you suggest us?
I think, Vamsi, we don't need to think a lot as we move on into the training sessions, right? We'll understand where we are lagging. I mean, which concepts we need to stretch a bit, and what are the prerequisites that we are missing, so that how we can learn. But as of now, if you wanted to study something prior to this training, right? So you guys can go through XML, XST, XQuery, XSLT,
Okay,
WSDL. These concepts are pretty much good to at least get started with our training.
okay, fine, fine.
Okay. So guys, any other questions? Okay. So I'm just dropping